Welcome to another episode of New York Giants Corner here at Toilets to Titles. I am your host, Joe, otherwise known as Joe Knows, otherwise known as Joe J underscore Clark. Follow me on Twitter. I'd really appreciate it. And oh my friends, how the tables have turned. Daniel Jones has gone from ridicule to second contract, and I absolutely love it. So before I get into all the juicy contact, I'm going to talk all the juicy content. I'm going to talk about Saquon as well, getting tagged. Yesterday was a glorious day for us Giants fans. For many of us, we got the quarterback that we wanted to keep. For some of us, they got the quarterback that they're okay with, but they're unsure about. And for other people, the haters out there, I'm sorry, you're just gonna have to eat you know what for the next few years, and hopefully we'll enjoy a Super Bowl in a few years. What do we got over here? D now, what's going on, Dennis? Joe, my guy, Dennis. Thank you for joining the show. I really appreciate it. My friend Dennis is a big time Lions fan, and those Lions are going to be scary starting next year, and they were already scary this year. But guys, before I get into the content, let me get the bells and whistles out of the way. If you can, hit that like button, subscribe, give us that 5-star Apple review. It really helps us out a lot. It takes a second to hit a button. Really appreciate it. If you have 30 seconds to spare while you're sitting on the toilet, give us that 5-star Apple review. All that stuff really helps us out a lot. Where you can find the show: Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify. All of our content goes to our website, toiletsandtitles.com. Even our videos that we do here on YouTube, all of our articles. We got like 15 people pumping out articles on the NCAA draft. Actually, excuse me, NCAA draft, NCAA football, the NFL draft coming on up, regular NFL football. We've now got XFL football content. We've got NFL football. We got everything. Fantasy football, that's our bread and butter. Anything to do with football, here we are. That's what we do. We got 15 guys working around the clock, basically pumping out videos, articles, everything, whatever we produce. Whenever we produce it, it goes to our website, which is toiletstotitles.com, and also patreon.com/toiletstotitles. You go there, you can learn how you can further support the show. And I want to give a shout out to our current Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. We appreciate you appreciating us. Thank you so much. And also, we have recently partnered with the CFB Nation. They're like our sister show now. They basically handle most of the college content, and we handle most of the NFL content. So just big announcement there. They're doing a great job over there, especially recently over at Senior Bowl and the Combine. Dennis was over, who was just over here in the comments section. Dennis himself, along with Jared Gray, was over at the Combine, and they produced a lot of great interviews, a lot of great videos. And check it out on both of our websites. Again, that's at the CFB Nation and Toilets to Titles. And we both have YouTube channels. And check it out. A lot of content, a lot of great content and interviews that came out of the Combine, and we produced. I got to say, I saw a lot of interviews and a lot of content from the Combine last week, and I think ours was amongst the best or the best, and I'm not even exaggerating. Just super interviews. Please check them all out. Probably like 25, 30 short videos up there with interviews with different players and just wonderful, wonderful content. So shout out to Dennis and Jared Gray, who did a wonderful job at the Combine. But anyway, I'm really talking a little too fast. I need to calm down because I'm super excited because we bagged my guy, Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, otherwise not known as Danny Dimes, otherwise known as as someone that people made fun of for a long time. I remember the night he was drafted, and I gotta say, I'll admit, I was disappointed myself. I didn't hate on the guy. I was disappointed in the pick, but I was actually just kind of sad too, because I knew that meant the end of the Eli era. And I'm like, wow, so this is going to be the guy who's taking over the reins. Don't know how he's going to do. But man, the ridicule he got that night and was unbelievable. And it just continued and continued and continued. The ridicule he had to deal with from, mainstream media sources like ESPN, SNY, MSG, all different publications around the country, repeated year after year after year, game after game after game, regardless of the situation. This guy was just completely hated on. And it's a fair word to use, a fair phrase. He was hated on. The ridicule was absolutely ridiculous. I think it was disgusting. And I'll say this, with this second contract, you can all shove it up your asses. He deserves it. He earned it, and I love that people's heads are exploding. I love it. I love it because you've all been. I'm not talking about people who don't think he's a good quarterback, who wouldn't want them as their quarterback. I get it. I get it. I'm talking about the people, and I'm really the people in the mainstream media who like foster this nonsense as if they're geniuses. And I think most of these experts, like on ESPN and whatever else, are idiots. I don't think they really know much about football, to be honest with you. I think they watch a few clips and they really don't know what the hell they talk about, what they're talking about. That's why they have former NFL players who talk in there. And honestly, these ESPN people, all they ever do is just suck up to these NFL players anyway. Whatever they say goes. These people, I don't think, are very knowledgeable on football or sports in general. I think they just have their opinions, and they're not really more informed than many other people. So I'm getting all worked up here, but you know what? I want to defend this guy. I should have done it sooner. I wanted to do a Daniel Jones specific episode a long time, but he got a second contract. I knew it was going to happen. And I want to point out to so many of you how wrong you've been about this guy and his second contract process, him becoming a free agent, leading up to becoming a free agent and second contract, and how wrong so many of you have been about all of this. Not just about him as a player, but just the ridicule, the way you saw the whole contract through the prism of your eyes of no respect for this guy whatsoever. So many of you were like, okay, you know what, he did a little better this year in 2022. It's all Brian Daboll, and okay, he can come back for $22 million a year. He can come back on the tag. Or okay, I'll give him $25 million a year. Oh, okay, I'll give him $28 million a year. $30 million a year. Oh, I don't know about that. Give me Baker Mayfield or give me Sam Darnold and go ahead and draft Herndon Hooker at the back end of the first round. I'd rather do that. I'd rather go with a mediocre, completely mediocre quarterback, and I have no idea what you're going to get in the draft quarterback as well. That's what you wanted to do. That's the road you wanted to take us down. But no, we got a guy who proved a lot this past year, who did nothing but eat a bunch of crap for the first contract, for his rookie contract. This guy was given absolutely nothing for years, and he still played with very little this year. And pretty much any other quarterback outside of maybe top five or top six, in my humble opinion, would not have gotten this Giants team. And it wasn't Daniel Jones alone. I realize Saquon Barkley is obviously a phenomenal player, and I'm glad he's tagged. And I hope he gets like a 3-year extension with the Giants. I want to see him get a second extension because I think he deserves it. I realize running backs don't often get it. I hope he gets it because he's been a phenomenal player and citizen for the New York Giants. But right now, I want to focus on Daniel Jones, and I am worked up because this guy was served nothing but a big plate of crap by analysts, by his own organization, unintentionally, but by a bunch of big idiots in that front office and the coaches for the past few years. Supporting cast that was completely, at times, talented on paper, but not available, ever available. Never, ever, ever. And I don't think anyone out of the top five, maybe seven quarterbacks in the NFL could have gotten this Giants team to the playoffs this year. I sincerely don't. I don't think Daniel Jones is an elite quarterback. I don't think he'll ever be. I know he's not an elite quarterback right now, and I don't think his ceiling is elite. I don't think it's an elite passer. I don't need an elite quarterback to win. I need a good quarterback. You need a good quarterback surrounded by a good team. Because I'll tell you right now, everyone makes it sound like just elite quarterbacks win Super Bowls by themselves, and that's not true. You can either comment here, in the comment section right now in the live video, or you can come back later. But go and check out the results of every single Super Bowl game. No one, no quarterback has ever won a Super Bowl without without a good supporting cast around him. Not just an offense, usually defense too. I'm not saying it's got to be a great defense, but at least it's got to be a decent defense. No quarterback has ever won a Super Bowl by taking a crappy team to that game ever. It's never happened. I don't care how good the quarterbacks have been. You can even look at plenty of quarterbacks out there. Look at like Peyton Manning when he was on the Denver Broncos. He wasn't the same Peyton Manning that he was with the Colts early in his career, and that was the best quarterback I'd ever seen in my life. Uh, Along with Tom Brady and a few others, it's hard to argue to really put who's number one, and it doesn't really matter. They're all legendary quarterbacks. But Peyton Manning goes to Denver, and he didn't need to be Peyton Manning from the Indianapolis Colts. He was on a really good team that had everything else, including a kick-ass defense. So Daniel Jones, in my opinion, while I don't think he'll ever be an elite passer, could be somewhat of an elite light quarterback. That is bringing his legs into the game as well, because they are an important threat. They are a really big time threat. Most other quarterbacks, like a Jalen Hurts, would get credit for that. Daniel Jones doesn't. I'd love to see it, and I like Jalen Hurts. A lot of other people 2 years ago were like, "Oh, well, I guess they're gonna have to draft another quarterback." This is when Jalen Hurts was a rookie. And they had just drafted it. And I'm like, they were moving on from Wentz. I'm like, well, before you draft someone, why don't you give Hurts a shot? The guy was a pretty damn impressive college player. Give him a shot. They gave him a shot. In the second year, he played well. They weren't great. They did go to the playoffs. They got beaten, but they weren't exactly the offense that they were this past year. And he had Jalen Hurts, who I think he didn't throw all that many touchdowns, just like Daniel Jones. He threw more, but it wasn't like the dude threw 30 touchdowns or 35 touchdowns. He really just threw not too many more than Jones. But you've got Jalen Hurts, who I'm not criticizing. I'm just trying to make a point here, who's given everything, like a really good offensive line, a really good group of wide receivers, and a really good running back in Miles Sanders, who I don't think is Saquon, but it doesn't matter. He's a really good running back. And to his credit, Miles Sanders finally stayed healthy for once. Um, that's nothing to laugh at. That's what you do with a quarterback if you want to try to win a Super Bowl. Philadelphia came up a little bit short in a game that I thought they should have won because I thought they were the better team. But I'm going up a million one tangents here because I'm both happy, very very happy for Daniel Jones, but I'm really pissed off by the way this guy's been treated by so many for so long, and many in this fan base. Just absolutely ridiculous arguments. Nothing they would never give this dude any credit for anything at all. And this is a team that Daniel Jones was drafted into a team. His rookie year, 2019, was ground zero of the rebuild. Some people think 2018, and many people think that 2018 was the beginning of the rebuild. It wasn't, guys. Just because they drafted Saquon to help Eli win that year. That was the hope that they could get Eli back to the playoffs. Didn't work out. Thank God they realized the mistake, and they drafted another quarterback and they rebuilt the team. But that was ground zero of the rebuild. And you had a rookie quarterback in 2019 ridiculed, taken out of Duke. Who watches Duke football? Taken out of Duke with a supporting cast and offense of a really shitty offensive line. Saquon Barkley, who was phenomenal his rookie year, and that year he played 7 games on a high ankle sprain. To Saquon's credit, because the dude's a warrior, he went out there and he knew that his rookie quarterback needed help. Went out there and played 7 games on a high ankle sprain. He was not for half that year. He was not the Saquon that we were used to seeing that we saw in his rookie year, and that we saw for the good half of that 2019 season. Uh, the rest of his weapons on paper sound pretty decent in 2019. Golden Tate, um, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, and fifth round pick from that same year, that same class as Daniel Jones, Darius Slayton. And I'll say this: the 3 top receivers on paper for the Giants, who again, it's not chump change. Obviously, not elite. It's not elite group, but all well-known names, talent, different levels of talent, but definitely, NFL quality. Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, and Evan Ingram. And those guys averaged 9 starts each. All right. So it was basically Daniel Jones, Darius Slayton, and I don't even remember who else, to be honest with you. And the dude played 12 games and put up 24 touchdowns. He averaged 2 touchdowns a game passing. He also had 2 running touchdowns as well. But he was in 12 games, he had 24 passing touchdowns. If he had played the full 16 games, he would have had 32 passing touchdowns plus the 2 rushing touchdowns he had in his rookie year with that cast. With that cast, the dude was on pace. This wasn't a small sample size of 4 games. This was 3 quarters of the season. It was 12 games. He was on pace for 32 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns and 16 interceptions. So he ended the season in 12 games with 24 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and if you prorate that out to full 16 games, it would have been 32 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. A 2-to-1 ratio, not bad, and especially not bad for a rookie quarterback, and especially not bad for a rookie quarterback on a really bad team. And forget about the offense. Well, The offense was horrible too. The defense might have even been worse that year. So, I've heard people say before in his rookie year, and I'm bringing up the rookie year because no one pays attention to his rookie year at all, except to bring up the fumbles, which was a serious problem. And I admit, after the first season, I was sold on Daniel Jones. I love the guy. I'm like, this dude's a baller, and this guy can pass, and this guy can play quarterback. He needs to develop on things. He needs to work on things, absolutely. But this dude's a baller. and But the fumbles were a serious problem, and I'll be the first to admit that. I was saying as well, as much as impressed as I was with Daniel Jones in his rookie year, at the end of his rookie year, I knew you're not going to be an NFL starting quarterback. You might not even be a backup quarterback if you're fumbling at the ridiculous rate that you're fumbling. I mean, it was ridiculous, but that was something that was easily correctable. And he lowered that number the second year. Wasn't great, I'll say that, but he lowered it the second year. His third year, the fumbles were really not an issue at all. And then last year, there basically were no fumbles. It was basically gone. But people will still bring up an analyst on TV. This is what annoys me the most: is experts on TV. If he fumbles in a game, someone will. Yeah, I remember this past year, someone said, it might have been Troy Aikman or whoever, saying, "Oh, that's Daniel Jones's 53rd fumble in 50 games." The dude hasn't fumbled like in 2 years. He hasn't fumbled, that much at all in 2 years. Didn't even fumble this past year. So where I'm going with all this is that trying to point out stuff that this guy has achieved that in most normal rookie years, if any other quarterback did this on a crappy team, people would have been praising him to the sky. All you got was like grudging admittance that, okay, all right, I'm a little intrigued. Let's see what else he does from there. In years 2 and 3, as Joe Schoen himself even said, he had today, this morning, at the press conference, Joe Schoen even said himself today that Daniel, they thought up in Buffalo, at least with Shane and Daboll, they thought that Daniel Jones had a good rookie year. Years 2 and 3 were a problem. Supporting cast, injuries, a lot of other problems, and the coaching sucked, and we all know it. And a bad general manager too, and quite frankly, bad ownership. Ownership was just putting their hands in everything. They were just a complete mess. And so they knew that years 2 and 3 were a problem. They didn't give them. They didn't pick up the fifth year when they came over here for Daniel Jones's fourth year this previous season. They didn't pick up the fifth-year option. I thought that was a mistake. I thought that was a mistake, but it didn't annoy me. I wasn't mad about it because I understood. I got it. But I knew for $22 million, I knew they were making a mistake. This I figured if Brian Daboll and these other coaches, who I really had a lot of expectations for, and I was not disappointed at all, that if they are the good coaches that we think they are, that Daniel Jones was gonna do more than well enough this year to justify that fifth-year extension. I had zero doubt about that, but I understood. I wasn't upset with Shane. I completely understood. You know what? And if I was wrong about Daniel Jones, which I wasn't, if I was wrong about Daniel Jones, then hey, you know what? I want this team to win. I love Daniel Jones, but I'm a Giants fan. And if I think a player is not good and they're not worth a certain amount of money, I'm going to move on from them. I'm going to want to look to improve, especially at the quarterback position. But I knew with just good coaching that this guy would play a hell of a lot better, at least to justify that fifth year, the $22 million. Um, and he did it this year too without a great offensive line. It's better, don't get me wrong. Andrew Thomas is a godsend. He's basically like an all-pro left tackle. Thank God for that. The offensive line was better. It was better than last year. Evan Neal still needs to he needs to show a lot next year. I am a little worried about him, but I still have faith in the dude too. He's smart, hard worker. He is talented. The interior of that offensive line needs a lot of help. Okay, but I think the PFF scores for the offensive line this year was probably the worst of any offensive line. Um, I get that, but you could see if you watch these games, you could see, regardless of what PFF scores are, and I'm not knocking PFF, it just doesn't count for everything. Regardless of what those scores were, you could see that this offensive line just passed the eye test. It was better. It was better. Part of that too was Daniel Jones improving himself on pocket manipulation, and everyone who watches the Giants could see that. You could see it. His pocket manipulation, his pocket presence was light years better than it had been. And that's Daniel Jones, but also the good coaching too. Listen, good quarterbacks, even elite quarterbacks, need good coaching. Need good coaching, need good schemes. to succeed early on in their career. Even the elite ones could possibly crash and burn if they're not given this. Yeah, and the good coaching is the most important thing. And again, like you're not going to win a Super Bowl with a bad coach or a mediocre coach. It really takes that combination of a really good head coach and a really good quarterback. So but anyway, listen, a lot of people were really wrong about a lot of things with Daniel Jones. It was like anything anything that this guy did wrong would be blown up 1,000%. Anything he did right at all would be completely minimized or given, or the attribution would be given to someone else. It would be given to Saquon Barkley. And God bless Saquon. I'm not knocking him at all. I'm glad we have him. I want him around for 3 more years. But anything that the Giants did well at all, if they had any success at all, was only given to Saquon. That's it. Or now only given to Brian Daboll. And you got it completely wrong. You've been wrong about everything with Daniel Jones. I remember when we came out of college and they said, "Oh well, he's not an accurate quarterback." He's actually a pretty damn accurate quarterback. He was one of the most accurate quarterbacks this year, and he had the lowest interception percentage this year out of anyone. Is I think he threw an interception on 1.1% of his passes. He didn't throw the ball as much as some other quite a few other quarterbacks, but it wasn't like he didn't throw it at all. And his accuracy has only improved over time. There's still some things he needs to work on in terms of his post snap progressions. He does. He still has to work on that. This guy is improved pretty much every single year in every single category. Um, so I love the trajectory of this guy. And when Joe Shane said today that he was that he was really excited about Daniel because he sees 2022, this past season, which was a success. He saw it as the floor for Daniel Jones, and I agree. This is the floor for Daniel Jones. This isn't the ceiling. Things have only just begun. This is the floor. Well, you're going to say, Joe, what about the 2 years before that? That was the basement. That was the basement. That was like, man, how can we sabotage? How can we sabotage a young quarterback? They did anything you could do to sabotage a young quarterback. The Giants did. I'm not saying they did it with intent, but they did it with stupidity. Not really investing the resources to build up that offensive line in a real meaningful and urgent way. In an urgent way. Um, the wide receivers, listen, they did try to address wide receivers. Things didn't work out. I love Sterling Shepard. The dude he's just always begging for an injury. It just happens. He's always injured. They traded OBJ. They signed Kenny Galladay. I don't know what the hell happened with Kenny Galladay, but I'd love to know the full story with that. It might have been that he was just never the same wide receiver after his hip surgery. I don't know, but very very strange. And then the strange case of Kadarius Toney. What the hell was that all about? And that was, it was sad to see him go, but then again, he had to go too because even when he went to Kansas City, everyone's like, "Oh, look, Tony, he scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl." I like Kadarius Toney, and I really wanted to see him succeed here. And honestly, I wish him nothing but the best in Kansas City. But the dude hardly even played for Kansas City after he was traded there. It was insane. Like, how can you be like 23 years old and have all these hamstring issues? You're a professional athlete, for God's sake. Jesus, drink some water, stretch on the sidelines or something. My God. But, we had one catch for 5 yards and a touchdown, and he had a really kick-ass, kick return in the Super Bowl. And that just, dude, the dude is seriously dangerous. If Kadarius Toney could ever stay healthy, he is going to be an elite weapon in the NFL, especially playing with Patrick Mahomes. But anyway, really the most of Daniel Jones ever. Evan Ingram, listen, finally stays healthy, goes to Jacksonville, puts up a good season, and good for him too. Really good character guy, and I liked his talent a lot. He was just unfortunately never used correctly by stupid coaches here at the Giants who sabotaged, in my opinion, quite a few careers. And Daniel Jones was almost a victim of really bad coaching for a few years in a row, but he made it. And I so respect this guy. I so respect this guy for everything he's gone through, all the ridicule, even from a majority of the fans, on his own team, analysts all over the place, other NFL idiot players in across the NFL. Um, went through everything. And you know what? He shows up for work every single day. And you hear that saying, well, he's the type of guy that's first in, last out. Daniel Jones lives and breathes that. He is, you always hear about him. He is always the first one in and the last one out. I don't even know if that dude leaves MetLife Stadium. He's always there, literally working out and trying to improve, always. And I knew, just given this guy's dedication, you give this guy some good coaching, he's going to succeed. And my fellow Giants fans, I'm here to tell you, even if you're someone who still doubts in this guy, it's okay. I don't mind the doubt. What I'm addressing, what the annoyance that's coming out, in my voice right now, and what I'm talking about, is just the ridicule. It's the ridicule that's still there. In this contract, people are acting like, oh, this contract, 4 years, $160 million. What the hell? He doesn't deserve this. Yeah, he does deserve it, because this is a guy who's only his trajectory is upwards. It's not going down. He's not going to be sliding backwards next year, guys. He's not. He's not going to be sliding backwards next year or the year after that. He's only going to get better. And yes, he is going to live up to this contract. And I'll tell you what, it's going to be pretty easy to live up to this contract in a year or two, because the salary cap for in the NFL is going to be skyrocketing over the next 2 years. So $40 million a year on average is not going to be a big deal. And listen, it's not all about getting just the same level quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback, but I do think you can win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones. You need to put talent around him, offensive line, weapons. It doesn't need to be the best offensive line in history. Give him a decent NFL respectable offensive line, so the dude can actually have time to look downfield for longer passes that he used to throw his rookie year. People still like to say, well, we don't know how he does in the deep ball. I'm telling you right now, you've all been wrong about everything. Listen to me right now. Daniel Jones throws an accurate, beautiful deep ball. It's not a rocket, all right? It's not gonna rocket down 80 yards in half a second. He throws a beautiful, long, accurate deep ball with really nice touch. And when we get receivers who actually are a threat downfield, past 20 yards, 30 yards, some burners with hands who can catch the ball, you're going to see it. Yes, he was doing that his rookie year when the head coach at that time, Pat Shermer, basically took the reins off and just let him ball. Daniel Jones, part of his fumbling problem was that he was it wasn't just a bad offensive line. He was holding on the ball too long because the dude was looking downfield all the time, looking to make big plays. And I love that about Daniel Jones. One thing I'm a little bit concerned about is that I hope he hasn't toned that down too much in terms of trying to like balance out not making mistakes versus going for the big play. I love that, even in his rookie year, this dude, he looked like an assassin. He was trying to he was trying to throw daggers. This guy was looking too long, too often, to throw down the field deeper. He wasn't looking to go really for shallow intermediate passes. He was looking to go deep. And I love that about the guy. Years 2 and 3, was very different under Joe Judge and Jason Garrett. Very, very different. And so listen, they got the offense under control this year. People think that, this past year in terms of 15 touchdowns, 15 passing touchdowns, and, really not all that many yards that, and pretty much the vast majority of their plays coming within the short and intermediate part of the field, they think that's because, the head coach doesn't trust Daniel Jones. Obviously, it's not true. That's not true anyway, because if Brian Daboll didn't want him, they would never have extended. They probably wouldn't even given him the tag. All right, if Brian Daboll didn't believe in him. The reason why people think that they were afraid of Daniel Jones, that he couldn't throw the deep ball, so they only kept it to short and intermediate fields. That's not true. That's not true. And you can tell it's not true because they just signed the guy to an extension. If they thought that was true, they never would have signed this guy to an extension. It was the reason why we're seeing these short and intermediate passes. That was basically their offense, a lot of slants, and it was successful to a point. This team reached its ceiling this year. They were not going to beat Philadelphia. They were not going to beat Dallas. They weren't going to beat San Francisco. They weren't going to beat Kansas City, Buffalo, Bengals. There was a certain ceiling this team could hit, and this was it. All right. But the reason why they weren't throwing deeper downfield is because they did not have the weapons to do it. All right, pure and simple. They didn't have the weapons to do it. And even the passing game, did you notice how in the passing game it got better the second half of the year when they got Isaiah Hodgins? I like Hodgins a lot, but it wasn't just it wasn't just Isaiah Hodgins. Like it's not like this is some, I love that he's going to be back next year. I'm really intrigued by what he can do. My warning is, please, Giants fans, don't fall into the trap with Isaiah Hodgins like many of you did with Darius Slayton after Slayton's rookie year. Slayton had a really good rookie year, fifth round pick, really good rookie year, and there was a lot of hope that he could develop into a real number one wide receiver. It didn't happen, and I always like Darius Slayton. I think the guy got too much heat from the fan base as well. But Darius Slayton was, listen, he'd be a really good number three wide receiver on a really good wide receiver core. My warning is that with Isaiah Hodgins, keep your expectations somewhat grounded. Okay, don't expect wide receiver one with Isaiah Hodgins. I think his ceiling is really good wide receiver two if we get a really good wide receiver one. And who knows, maybe it would only be wide receiver three, but nothing wrong with a good wide receiver three. But with Isaiah Hodgins, when he came on board, and he already knew Daboll's offense for the most part. It is Hodgins' own talent that really helped out a lot too. But the main thing is that it brought stability to a wide receiving core that didn't have it this year and didn't really have it at all throughout all of Daniel Jones's career. They finally had stability. You had the same receivers out there. You had Isaiah Hodgins, who quickly developed a very good rapport with Daniel Jones. Darius Slayton, who's been always been healthy. It's a great thing about Darius Slayton is he does have big playability. He also has a really good rapport with Daniel, and he always has since their rookie years. They both came out in the same draft. And he also had Richie James, and I don't think Richie James is anything great, but he's been out there and he is productive. He is productive. But he had the three same guys finally, the three same guys being rolled out there all the time, and they're not even that great. When you finally had some stability out of the wide receiving core, and the passing game looked so much better, they did take the reins off of Daniel Jones when they finally had that wide receiver situation, sorted out in the second half of the year. When I say take off the reins, I don't think they were intentionally trying to keep the reins on Daniel, but they were doing so because the wide receivers were really a mess the first half of the year. And Saquon was healthy and he was looking awesome. So, ball out with Saquon. I would do that too. I love Saquon. But finally, that second half of the year when you finally could get the same wide receivers out there with receivers that the quarterback is on the same page with and trusts, you can cook a little bit. You can cook a little bit. So there's so much room for growth. And listen, guys, I see this 9 comments. So I'm just kind of on a roll right now. I'll get to the comments in a little bit. But listen, I'm going off in a million tangents, but I've had a lot bottled up. A lot of passion for Daniel Jones, rooting for this guy a lot, really pulling for him, and but also a lot of just annoyance and disgust with so many people. Just the ridicule of this guy against this guy. It's been absolutely unbelievable. This guy does nothing but act like a 100% class character. Again, first one in, last one out. And that's not even an exaggeration. He really is the first one in, last one out. Never says anything wrong. Always measuring his responses. Always taking responsibility for his own mistakes, which he definitely makes his own mistakes. He's far from perfect. If mistakes that you could probably see are made by his receivers, he still takes those mistakes. Just like he takes the onus for those mistakes, just like Eli used to do. Deflect credit from himself, but take the blame. That's a leader. That's a leader to me. Daniel Jones is listen. I think this extension is easily worth it. I don't have a problem with it at all. And this is what the rate was going to be. I was telling people. There's another thing people were wrong about. They thought, oh, he's going to come back, same price as the tag, maybe they'll give him like a 2 or 3 year deal, $32 million a year, $34 million a year, $35 million a year. It was going to be a minimum of $38 million a year, and I had a feeling for a long time that this number was going to be in the 40s. I wasn't surprised at all because I knew the cap was going up, either next year or the year after that, going up dramatically. And $40 million really is not a big deal. When you've got stability, you now have certainty at your quarterback position. And you've got a quarterback that your head coach, who just won head coach of the year, who everyone around the NFL and fans all over the place give all the credit in the world to, deservedly so. Deservedly so. He's an offensive genius. He is a quarterback guru, and he's so far a really good head coach. I am so glad that Brian Daboll is our head coach and he's leading this team. But I'm losing my train of thought here. I'm just going on all over the place. But Daboll he's done a fantastic job for Daniel, but it's not just Daboll. But if Daboll didn't want him, he would not be here. I know I've said it 3 times, but I just have to reiterate it. And a lot of people who are just earlier this year were saying, trust the process, trust Joe Schoen. In Joe Schoen I trust, are now like calling him a clown. They're basically calling him like, little Dave Gettleman, young Dave Gettleman, that he's a clown, that he somehow fell into Daniel Jones's trap here. Shane is, I think he's a smart person. We'll see how good he is. I'm going to grade him on, his next few draft classes. We'll see how it goes. That's what matters to me. His free agency signings. That's what matters to me. Dave Gettleman was horrendous at free agency signings. So I'm going to give Shane a few years to. I'm not going to praise anybody. I'll praise the results. Brian Daboll, I'll praise. I'm not knocking Joe Shane at all. Hell, I'm happy he signed Daniel Jones and that he tagged Saquon. And then it looks like he is trying to extend Saquon. I'm very happy about that. But this is obviously a Brian Dable success year. And Shane, I think, had a pretty good draft class, but we'll see how that turns out. His first draft class. We'll see how the 2023 draft class turns out, how the 2024 draft class turns out. We've got a ways to go. We got to see. We got to see what free agency he brings in. And I'm not even really necessarily looking for big names or any big names just yet. I think you kind of wait on that a little bit until you're an even better team and more ready to compete consistently for like Super Bowl contention. I'm talking about, but bring in some smart free agents to plug some holes who are solid players, solid players. So we'll see how he handles free agency. But my point being that Joe Shane, everyone like 99% of Giants fans were saying earlier this year, in Shane we trust, and now he signs Daniel Jones to extension, and like 50% of those fans are clowning on Joe Shane now. Listen, this deal is a good deal. Daniel Jones is a good quarterback. This guy has improved across the board. The passing touchdowns are gonna come. I know that's what everybody is infatuated with, are the passing touchdowns. They're gonna come. I don't think he's necessarily gonna be a consistent 32 to 35, passing touchdown quarterback every single year. I think this is a dude who's going to use his legs a lot. This guy's he is the size of Josh Allen. They're both 6'5". I think Josh Allen's got like 12 pounds on him, but 12 pounds isn't a lot. They're both 6'5". He's a big dude. And Daniel Jones trucks. This guy he's got value in ways that many other quarterbacks do not have. And that is his legs. But it's not just his legs. People used to say he's not accurate. He is accurate. You saw it this year. He's accurate. But you need stuff around you. You need stability around you. It's funny how, like, Daniel Jones will never, people will say it's, oh, excuses, no excuses left now. When you point out that this dude's weapons, if he even has weapons, are always injured. If he's got no offensive line, people say no excuses now, which they're rolling that stupid line out again now that he's, has the $40 million a year contract. And no excuses now not to live up to this contract. Well, I'll tell you right now, if the offensive line doesn't continue to improve, and if the wide receivers like stay the same class we have now, and they're always injured like they pretty much have been for the past few years, don't expect too much improvement. Don't expect it. It's funny, look at Daniel Jones will never get the benefit of the doubt on anything at all. But meanwhile, it's funny when I was here earlier this year when I was hearing from people that Aaron Rodgers wasn't having an Aaron Rodgers year this year. I still think Aaron Rodgers is a good quarterback, and if he goes to the Jets, Aaron Rodgers is going to cook. That team is got some really good weapons. Aaron Rodgers will do very well if he goes to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers was not having a very good year this year, especially in the first half of the year. And people were saying, well, what do you expect? He's got no receivers to throw to. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, even really good, historically good wide quarterbacks need good wide receivers to throw to. Or if you're going to be winning games, if you're not going to have great wide receivers to throw to, you're going to need a really, really good defense and a really, really good running game. And Green Bay did not have a really good defense. Surprisingly, I thought they were going to be better. They should have been, but they didn't. The defense wasn't very good this year. And I don't know what happened with that running game. I mean, they've got some really good running backs in Green Bay, and I think their head coach is kind of stupid, to be honest with you. I think most Green Bay fans are kind of fed up with that head coach anyway. But really good running game. They didn't want to use it. They were just trying to throw the ball, and the young wide receivers were not ready. I'm still high on Green Bay's young wide receivers, but my point is, here you had people, you know, saying for Aaron Rodgers, defending Aaron Rodgers, well, he doesn't have anyone to throw to because he doesn't have Devontae Adams, and I agree with you. I agree with you. But other quarterbacks have to get that benefit of the doubt too. I don't think any other quarterback, or not any other quarterback, I out of the top five, six, seven quarterbacks, I don't think the other like 23 or 24 quarterbacks would have done better or as well as Daniel Jones did this year with just, the bare minimum offensive line he had this year and the bare minimum of mediocrity that he had with the wide receivers. And don't forget Daniel Bellinger, young Daniel Bellinger, very young and impressive tight end. They lost him for like 6 games with like an eye injury that almost cost him his career, almost cost him his eye, almost cost him his career. They lost that dude for 6 games, and you're going to think I'm blowing out of proportion, but Daniel Bellinger was a big part of this Giants offense before he went down with the injury and after the injury. He was becoming a safety valve for Daniel Jones, and also just a really good blocker in the running game too. So again, very impressed with Daniel. Just the way he's comported himself throughout his career, the way he's handled himself, the way he has grown, and sometimes in just subtle ways as a quarterback. And I watch this guy. I'm not nuts. I want this team to win. I've been a Giants fan for 40 years now. I'm 51 years old. I've been a Giants fan for 41 years. I've seen teams come and go. I've seen great teams come and go. I've seen great players come and go. And I would have no patience for a crappy quarterback. I'd want to move on from him too. But I could see, even just in his rookie year, by the end of his rookie year, I could see the talent in this guy. And while other people are just, giving him like little credit, no credit whatsoever, and not seeing the possibilities in this guy, I saw the possibilities in this guy. I saw it. And others did too. I'm not saying it's just me. I'm not a genius or anything, but I know this team. I know this Giants team. I know this organization. And I know success, at least with the Giants, when I see it. This dude's got talent. Listen, he's never going to be Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is on a level all of his own. He's never going to be Joe Burrow as a passer, okay? He's never going to be that great, but he's going to be good enough. He's going to be good enough. Don't worry about Daniel Jones now. He's going to be the quarterback for at least the next few years. What you need to worry about, what I need to worry about, what Joe Shea needs to worry about is adding more talent to this team. Okay. Daniel Jones is stability. Okay. He is stability. He's not a bad quarterback. He's not even just a mediocre quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He's a second tier quarterback. And who knows? Maybe I'm even, as much as I love him, maybe I'm even underselling him a little bit too much. Maybe he can be an elite quarterback. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. But again, I don't need him to be an elite quarterback. That would be great. I just need him to be a really good quarterback who's available. Don't be getting injured anymore, Daniel. We need you, but just be a good quarterback who uses the weapons around you, and the Giants need to improve their weapons around Daniel. Can't just be Saquon Barkley. It's funny. People won't even give, like when Daniel's doing well, like they just had a really good year. Many people just want to give all the credit to Saquon Barkley. That, unbelievable. They can't give any credit to Daniel Jones whatsoever. And so unbelievable. But listen, they need to upgrade those weapons on that offense. They need to get talent there. I don't expect it just to happen in one year. I'm not expecting that. I want to see the offensive line improve too. That's very, very serious. Again, it doesn't need to be elite like Philadelphia. It doesn't need to be elite. Just make it good. Make it good. Okay. And I want to see that defense built up too. It's the wide receiving core is going to take a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely. I think they're going to improve it this year. But listen, it needs more talent. But with Daniel Jones at a bare minimum with your quarterback, you don't have to worry about this guy. Okay, you can worry about other areas of the team. You don't have to worry about Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is going to show up. He's going to do his thing. He is going to elevate. He does elevate players, guys. He does. He elevates. Okay, he elevates. He elevates the talent around him. When he's out of the game, they look like a real shit show, like they did last year when he was out, when he was injured for like the last 6 years of the year. 2 years before that, they look like a real shit show when he was injured for a few games there too, with the backup quarterbacks in. He elevates the offense, guys. He elevates it. He's just going to get better and better. I agree with Joe Shane again. To reiterate, you're just scratching the surface with Daniel Jones. Um, focus on the rest of the team. Focus on building. Focus on getting some linebackers. Okay. Focus on getting like a top end quality second cornerback, second CB, opposite of Adoree Jackson. Get some depth on that defensive line. Leo Williams and Dexter Lawrence can't be going out there for 95% of the snaps every single game in a 17 game season. They can't. It's not sustainable. It's sustainable for 1 year, I guess. Even though they were both looking kind of, especially Leo was looking kind of worn down by the end of the year, and he was playing with the neck burner too. To be fair to Leo, I love Leo. Don't get me wrong, but he was playing injured there this year. You you can't be rolling these guys out for 95% of the snaps, 17 games a year, every single year. You need depth on that defensive line. You need to improve the offensive line. We all know um, this wide receiving core needs some serious upgrades. Uh, these guys, I'd actually bring them all back on like Darius Slayton. I'd bring Darius Slayton back. I like Darius Slayton. I think at best, he's a number three receiver, but on a really good wide receiving core, if he's a number four wide receiver, that's great depth to have. Richie James has value too. He's not bad. I would assume he'd be back like on a manageable contract, nothing big. It's not like he's some awesome wide receiver. He is replaceable. But the good thing about these three guys is that they were available last year. They weren't injured like Sterling Shepard's always been. And I love Sterling Shepard, but he's always injured. He's probably not going to be back. They're not injured all the time like OBJ was. And OBJ was injured all the friggin' time. They're not injured all the time like Kadarius Toney was. So bring these guys back, as at least Daniel has a rapport with them, and they're solid character guys. These guys work hard, and you build from those guys. Bring Hodgins and bring Slayton back. Bring Richie James back. Wandale Robinson. He'll be back some point at the end of next year, but I'm just warning you with Wandale. Don't expect the real Wandale Robinson to show up until 2024. He's coming back from an ACL injury, suffered like in the middle of the year. He might be back on the field by the middle of this year, but I don't think you're going to see him really perform until 2024. But you got a floor to work with these wide receivers, and they just won 9 games and went to the playoffs this past year. Bring those guys back and add talent to it. But again, I don't expect this team to be flooded with wide receiver ones all over the place in a year. They might not even get a true wide receiver one this year. That's okay. You can still add talent. You can still add good talent. Not everyone, when you can get a wide receiver one, when you can do it, great. Let it happen, but let it fall into your lap. Okay. Don't force the issue. Focus on the rest of the team too. You got to build it all up. You got to build it all up. It can't all be on Daniel Jones. All right. And he's not Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. Yeah. Maybe he could be like a top five quarterback one day. I'm not betting on that. But again, give me a top eight, top 10 quarterback. I'm happy. And the dude is stable. You're paying part of what you're paying for here is stability. And that's what he gives you in spades. You don't have to worry about stupid crap with him. You don't have to worry about any stupid crap. And this guy does bring value. He brings a lot of value to this team and to this offense. Okay. I know it doesn't necessarily show up in the gaudy, touchdown passing numbers and passing yards and gaudy passing touchdowns. I get it. I get it. But he brings a lot of value, with his legs too. And he does, he is a good passer of the ball. People used to say he's not accurate. You're wrong. He's very accurate. He showed it this year. And I'm just warning you about something else. I'm just giving you a heads up. When they actually do get legit deep threats down the field eventually, you're going to see he has a really, really nice deep ball. Okay. And again, I'm repeating myself, but these are points I like to hammer home. I'm telling you right now. I know Daniel Jones through and through. So many people have been wrong so long about this dude. I'm just pointing it all out. I'm pointing it all out where you've been wrong, and I'm telling you what to expect down the road. That if you can get a legit wide receiver one, who's a deep threat, you're going to see he's got a really nice deep ball, accurate, nice touch. You're going to see that. And anyway, so I'm super happy that he has signed 4 years. I think that's great. I kind of wanted a 5 year deal. That's how much I believe in this guy. I wanted a 5 year deal, but I'll settle for a 4 year deal. It's okay. And apparently, I think they can get out after 3 years. I think a lot of people have been reporting, and maybe they're right that they can get out of the contract after 2 years. I don't. It's my understanding, Willie, that's really not true. Like, yeah, they could get out after 2 years if everything's a travesty and we're all wrong about Daniel Jones and was a total bum and He's horrible next year and the year after that. I don't think so. I think the way it's actually structured, there's like a some sort of payment that kicks in on like March of his third year, which would almost kind of guarantee that he'd be here the third year anyway. So, but I'm not worried about the dude backsliding. I have full faith in this guy, and I absolutely love Daniel Jones. I'm so happy for him. I really am so happy for this guy. I'm so happy that so many people are eating shit right now over the past few days over this signing. And here they are, they're out there crying. I see them on Twitter, and I normally don't get involved with people I disagree with. But I gotta say, it's been tasty to shove that shit sandwich down their throat. I love seeing them cry. And I know this is a family show, Toilets and Titles, but damn, this episode deserves some cursing. It really does. It deserves it. Because there are a lot of asshole fans out there who've just totally bagged on this dude for so long. And they're, oh yeah, I'll be okay this year, with this performance, going to the playoff and winning a playoff game. I'll be happy if he gets they could bring it back for $22 million. All right, $28 million. $30 million. $30 million? Are you kidding me? Daniel Jones? Oh, Joe Shane will never do that. And then and the number is $40 million. And when the report came out like a week ago that they were actually not just asking for 45 million, they were asking for $48 million, the agents. I knew, all right, right here, right here, the final number is gonna be $40 million a year. Because I knew what the agents were doing. They were trying to set the middle ground, as you would in any negotiation. They were trying to set the middle ground. The tag was $32 million. That was the minimum. You actually had stupid fans out there saying that okay, they could bring it back for $28 million a year. The minimum was going to be the tag, which is $32 million a year. If the agents were asking for $48 million, originally, people were shocked when they heard 45 million, and then it came out a few days later that they were asking for $48 million. And I'm like, well, if they're asking for 48, the middle ground's going to be 40. That's going to be the final number. Yet some people, saying, oh, he'll probably sign for $38 million. That would be nice, but it's probably gonna be $40 million. That's the middle ground. And lo and behold, old Joe knows. Old Joe was right. It was $40 million. And I'm not surprised. 4 years. I didn't think it would be 3 years. I thought it'd be 4 years. And I was hoping it would be five. Like I said, I believe in this dude. So I'm very, very happy. I'm very, very happy. And everyone else out there who's, begging and dying to move on from Daniel Jones and sign Mitch Trubisky for $8 million or $5 million and draft Herndon Hooker. They'd rather go that route. You had so many Giants fans out there who, they're all sign Mitch Trubisky or Marcus Mariota. What's the difference? And then you could draft Herndon Hooker in the back of the first round, or heck, draft a quarterback in the seventh round. It's Brian Daboll. He'll make anyone into Josh Allen. No, he'll work wonders with anyone. Well, they didn't do that, guys, and they made the right decision. And you know what? If we went your route of signing like a Mitch Trubisky or Marcus Mariota, and hoping that one day over the next few years you'd actually be able to draft a quarterback that is a franchise quarterback like Daniel Jones is, you're subjecting yourself to the real quarterback purgatory. That's what you're doing. You're really going into the unknown. And people are saying, sign Trubisky or Mariota or Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe draft a Herndon Hooker. Nothing against Hooker. I like Hooker. I do like Hooker, but I like Daniel Jones a lot. Herndon Hooker, I think, is a fine, young, promising quarterback coming out of this year's draft, who I think is worthy of going in the back end of the first round, where the Giants are drafting. I'm not trying to bust on Herndon Hooker. I'm busting on this whole thought process that other Giants fans have had. That you would have subjected yourself to QB purgatory. Herndon Hooker, as much as I like him, like any quarterback, is an unknown. They're an unknown in the NFL. You've had plenty of quarterbacks who drafted number one overall, number two overall, who turn into utter crap. Then you have quarterbacks who drafted like with the last pick in the first round, like Lamar Jackson, who are awesome. So I'm not saying it's a total crapshoot, but just with quarterbacks, like any NFL player, but especially quarterbacks, it really is quite a bit of a crapshoot. And many of you wanted to, get a real mediocre, very low ceiling quarterback in Marcus Mariota or Mitch Trubisky. You just think that Brian Dable is going to turn them into something, something better, and the Giants will be going into the playoffs again, and with the hope that you may be able to draft a quality franchise quarterback within the next few years. That logic is I cannot fathom whatsoever. I cannot fathom that logic whatsoever. And you were gonna subject this team to quarterback purgatory, and your argument was to go that route, cheap on the quarterback, into the great void of the unknown, going cheap on the quarterback, and build up the rest of the team. Of course, the rest of the team needs to be built up, but you're going to spend all your resources building up the team, and still you're not going to know what your QB situation is going to be. Now you know your QB situation, and you can build up the rest of your team. But you wanted to build up the rest of the team and not know your QB situation. I, I don't know where you're coming from. It's just pure stupidity, those arguments. And this isn't a straw man argument. This is why I'm like annoyed. This is the crap I've been seeing this year and the past few weeks with this whole negotiating process over the contract. Just ridiculous lines of thinking. You were going to seriously subject this team to QB purgatory while you built up the rest of the team with the hope in a few years at some point you could draft a franchise quarterback. And who knows, maybe trade 3 first-round picks to move up and get a franchise quarterback. You just better hope that it's not Trey Lance, and who knows, maybe Trey Lance will still turn out to be a really good quarterback. I'm not trying to dump on him either. I just thought it was insane that the 49ers even did that a few years ago when they traded up like 3 first round picks to get Trey Lance. It was completely ridiculous. But that's what you're going to subject this team to. Not a known quality quarterback who you can give no credit to whatsoever in Daniel Jones. You didn't want to maintain him for 4 years, $40 million. Like that means that is nothing. It really isn't a big deal, guys. That contract, it's really not a big deal. And in like a year or two, it's going to be even less of a big deal when the salary cap skyrockets. They did the right thing. They got stability at the quarterback, a good quarterback who could be even better, who we're just scratching the surface with. They got a stable quarterback, and you can focus on building the rest of your team. What many of you wanted to do was have no stability at the quarterback while you built the rest of your team. It's completely backwards. Be happy that you have Daniel Jones. Be happy that you have stability at your quarterback with a quality dude and a quality talent like Daniel Jones. Be very, very happy. Saquon Barkley. I guess I should talk a little about Saquon Barkley. I'm just so relieved with Daniel Jones. And I'm sorry if I've been talking really quickly. When I get excited, I get this way. I also go off on a lot of tangents. I've got a million. I'm such a genius, and my brain is so huge. I have so many thoughts just firing off at the same time. And my mouth just can't keep up. But now I'm trying to tone it down a little bit. Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley was tagged. Uh, I hope he doesn't play on the tag. I don't want him to play on the tag. Saquon Barkley has been a leader for this team. Like Daniel Jones, he's a top quality character guy. That's what this organization likes. And honestly, that's what the fan base should like. That's what I love. Yeah, I want the talent, but I don't just want the talent. I want the talent and I want the character. I want it both. And that's what Saquon Barkley gives you and Daniel Jones. But Saquon Barkley is a premier player at his position, and he's a premier character. And I'd be happy. I don't know if he's looking for a 4-year deal. I'd be happy to give him 13 million, $13.5 million a year, over a 3-year period, $13.5 million a year. I'd have no problem with that at all. I realize the argument people make that, and it's not crazy. Like a running back position is, you know, the value there, that out of that position is somewhat limited, at least. You really want to put that money towards wide receivers. If we had, if the argument was between Saquon Barkley and Jamar Chase, if we had Jamar Chase, then yes, I'd go with Jamar Chase. We don't have any wide receivers like that, and we're not likely to have any wide receivers like that this upcoming year. Maybe in 2 years, maybe next year we will. Maybe we draft a really good wide receiver now. Maybe he really winds up being a really here this upcoming draft, and maybe he winds up being a true wide receiver one for us. Whether it's on the outside or the inside, could be a Cooper Cup type of wide receiver, a guy who plays, like in the slot or something like that, but just a devastating wide receiver out of the slot. Who knows? It doesn't necessarily have to be a huge guy on the outside. But maybe we do get one this year. But even if we do, even if we get that one wide receiver this year's draft, you're not going to be paying him big money for a few years. That's why I've got no problem extending Saquon for 3 years. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. 4 years is kind of pushing it. 4 years is pushing it, and that's what he's probably looking for. But I would definitely go 3 years. I'd give him $13.5 million. I hope they give him the extension because I want to see these two back. I really do. They're so easy to root for, and especially Saquon. Everyone, even the haters of Daniel Jones, even they can get behind Saquon Barkley. Everybody loves Saquon Barkley, and when this guy is fully healthy, like he was this past year for the first time in years, Barkley was fully healthy, and you could see you could see what he could do. And I don't think he's got all that much wear and tear on him, to be honest with you. He missed a season, full season with that torn ACL. And he's not like he's Derrick Henry, like he's running between the tackles all the time. He does a lot of his running, not all of his running, but does a lot of his running outside the tackles. And getting hit outside the tackles when you get tackled, it's not the same thing as getting, blasted like Derrick Henry does when you're running up the middle all the time, getting blasted by like, you know, two defensive tackles and two linebackers and maybe a safety thrown in there too. It's not the type of beating he takes. And a lot of his plays too, it's Barkley is used quite often in the passing game, in the receiving game. Getting tackled by a safety and a cornerback, it's not the same thing as getting like Derrick Henry, getting tackled by defensive tackles and linebackers, and different type of hit. I think Saquon Barkley's got tire in the tread. I'm not worried about it. If they were to move on from him, which it's not going to happen, he is going to be back next year. They don't agree to a contract. He's going to play on the tag, and I feel bad for him because I want to see him get paid. He deserves it. Saquon's a total dude. I love that guy, and he does everything for this team, just like Daniel does. He does everything for this team. I want to see him get paid. But I'm glad that this worked out at the final tick of the clock. It worked out where they were able to come to an agreement with Daniel on the contract, and then get that tag in for Saquon because I want them both back next year. And but guys, I'm honestly with Saquon Barkley. I am not worried. If they sign him for 3 years, I am not worried about that at all. I'm really not worried about it at all. But here's a thought game for you. I want to, here's something. I'm just thinking out loud. You always hear arguments from people that the running back position is not valued. This is at 1985. You can get your running backs in the sixth round. Just go get your running backs in the sixth round. You know, you, why do people want to keep Saquon Barkley? I want to keep him, and I disagree with this argument that just go ahead and just get any old running back in the sixth round. Listen, there's legitimacy to the argument. Uh, I'm not saying you can't do that. You can get some really good quality running backs, sixth round, fifth round, seventh round, fourth round. You can. But then how come with Bijan Robinson, who's very Saquon Barkley like, he's coming out of the draft this year. He's easily a first round pick. I mean, the guy is probably going to go in the top 12, top 14 picks. Bijan Robinson is one of the top talents in this draft. Period. He's a running back. Why will he be going in the first round? You know, so why did Zeke go pick number 5 a few years ago? Even if Dallas didn't take him at pick number 5, he wasn't going to last too long. Why is it okay to take some running backs or elite running backs in the first round? If really it's like if running back is just like a dime a dozen position, you can always get him in the sixth round. Why is it okay, to take a player like Bijan Robinson in the first round, and he will go in the first round? People are always making this argument that just running backs got no value whatsoever, and people make that argument about not retaining Saquon Barkley. That it's crazy to sign Saquon to a second-year contract. And it's not just listen. I realize that running backs, get injured, and there is proof. Obviously, there is a track record of running backs not performing well on the second contracts. I get that, but again, he is not. I don't think he's got too much wear or tear on his tires. I think Saquon's got a lot of tread on those tires. Again, he doesn't play the game like Derrick Henry. He's not running between the tackles all the time. But just my point I was just trying to make before with the running back position is people they completely devalue the position like it means absolutely nothing, and then they're willing to spend first round picks on the newest, greatest young running back talent. I would say if it's so true that running back position is so valueless and you can always find these guys in the sixth round, then don't spend a first round pick. Why even spend a second round pick on running backs? Why even spend them second round picks when you can get them in the fourth round, fifth round, sixth round? Why spend first, second, third round picks on running backs? Because the answer is because running backs are valuable. And really good running backs are really valuable. And my argument, another argument that I'm trying to make with Saquon Barkley is I'm paying him is that we're not paying any elite wide receivers right now, and we're not likely to, this year or next year. So keep the elite playmaker that you've got now, at least for 3 years. Keep him. Pay the guy. He doesn't have all that much wear and tear of the tire. Again, I'll say for the fifth time. Keep the guy. He's the one elite playmaker you have. He's not just a running back. I've said this before, and it's a line that I love, and I'll say it again. Saquon Barkley is an elite playmaker out of the running back position. The guy gives you between his running yards and his receiving yards is going to probably give you, and has given you 2 years, in his career, like a total of like anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 all-purpose yards on the ground and receiving. That's elite. That is elite. Christian McCaffrey was probably the best running back in the game or the best weapon out of the running back position in the entire NFL. Makes something like $16.5 million a year. Panthers gave that to him like a year or two ago. San Francisco had no problem. San Francisco had no problem picking up that contract. And they really kind of didn't need it because that is a team that is always known for finding great value at the running back position in later rounds. And plus they've got a genius offensive coach and they know how to and they've got a great running scheme. They are a run-oriented scheme, San Francisco, and they're great at it. And other NFL teams should duplicate it. They really don't, which I think is crazy. But that offense that San Francisco runs is so really hard to defend. But yet, as capable as they are of completely turning out running backs who perform well in their system, they traded for $16.5 million Christian McCaffrey. Why? Why? Because he's an elite playmaker. And that's what out of the running back position. And that's what Saquon Barkley is. And he's our guy. He wants to be here. I'm not sneezing at $13.5 million a year. $16 million a year. Listen, I think Saquon's up there with Christian. But even I gotta say, like, listen, there's got to be a line. There does have to be a line somewhere, for any position, for any position. But man, I hope he's back. I hope the Giants are willing to go up to at least 13.5 million. All right, crap. I'd probably pay 14. I'd probably pay $14 million. Saquon, you broke me. I'd probably give you $14 million a year, 3 years. I'd probably do that. But I really hope he's back. I'm glad he's tagged, and he'll definitely be back next year. But I hope they come to a good, fair agreement, and he's back for like the next 3 years. And yes, I guess I would go to $14 million a year for Saquon because again, we don't have any other elite playmakers. Do you want to even? Daniel Jones has had to play his entire career behind a shitty offensive line. Thank God for Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas isn't shit, but it's still a shitty offensive line. He's had to play with, a shitty or banged up wide receiving core, wide receivers off the street literally all the time, every single year. And now you're going to take Saquon away from him. You're going to do that. Don't do that, Joe Shane. Don't do that. Let's get the deal done with Saquon. We all love Saquon. I love Daniel Jones. There's still a good, healthy percentage of Giants fans who love the guy. There are many people who are going to be hating on him even more. They're going to say, well, they're already saying, well, $40 million, no excuses now. Daniel Jones has never had any excuses. Has never had any excuses. The things I've been spending the past hour talking about are explanations. Okay, they're explanations. Daniel Jones has never had any excuses. All right, so cut that crap out. That stupid line. No excuses now. Do you really think if this is the same offensive line next year and the same wide receiving core without like any type of upgrade whatsoever, do you think you'd really see significant improvement in the offense? Just because you pay your quarterback $40 million a year, you're going to see some, major improvement? Of course not. You need to improve the rest of the weapons around the quarterback, okay? You do. Like any good quarterback in the NFL. There is no successful quarterback who plays with a crap offensive line and crap wide receivers. The really good ones can get away with, maybe a crap offensive line, but only to a certain point. But there is no good quarterback that produces at a high level with shit wide receivers and a shit offensive line. It doesn't happen. All right. It doesn't happen. So anyway, I don't want to end it on an angry note. I'm actually very, very happy. But I had to let this all out because there's just so much crap out there on the internet, on Twitter, on the internets. There's so much crap out there, and I wanted to address it. There's been so much crap out there for the past 4 years about Daniel Jones. And I wanted to set the record straight from my own point of view. A lot of stupid arguments. I don't even respect a lot of these arguments. I respect people, don't get me wrong, I respect people who don't think he's a very good quarterback. Okay. And they're just like, you know what? He's not for me. I want to hold out for someone who's elite. That's totally cool. What I'm trying to knock is I'm trying to knock down the nonsense that's been thrown at this guy. That's what I'm trying to knock down. That's the type of crap that's pissed me off for a long time. And that's the type of crap I don't respect. I just don't respect it whatsoever. So that's a point where it's not even a matter of disagreement. It's a matter of I have utter lack of respect for some of these stupid opinions that have been put out there. No excuses now. Like Daniel Jones has been, excuses his entire career. Get the hell out of here with that nonsense. Anyway, guys, I'm very happy about Daniel. I'm very happy about Saquon. I hope they get a 3-year deal. They get a long-term deal settled with Saquon because he deserves it. And we all want to root for that guy. Like I said, if San Francisco is trading for Christian McCaffrey, why can't we keep our own Christian McCaffrey? And that's Saquon Barkley. Let's do it. We don't have any of the wide receivers we're paying, guys. We don't have any of the wide receivers we're paying. We're not paying any. We're not paying Jamar Chase. We're not paying Stephon Diggs. We're not paying Justin Jefferson. We're not paying any of those guys anytime soon. So let's keep our playmaker. All right, before I go, guys, if you can, please give a follow to me and all my friends here at Toilets to Titles. We got like 15 of us here at Toilets to Titles. We all do different things. Again, we cover fantasy football, NFL football, NCAA, the draft, now the XFL. Basically, anything to do with football, we pretty much cover. We got you covered over here at Toilets and Titles. Yes, we do. And if you can, friendly reminder, please hit that like button, subscribe, hit that bell, give us that 5-star Apple review. My name is Joe. I'm here every Wednesday night, starting around 8 o'clock, 8:15, let's say 8-ish, Wednesday night with my program, New York Giants Corner. And I cover our football Giants, New York Giants football. That's what I cover. Anyway, let me get to the comments over here, and I'm going to sign off. Oh, man, let's see. George Reed, they paid $67 million a year more than they should have for Danny Dimes, in my opinion. George, I don't care about your opinion. I'm just kidding, George. I love you. The contract was well written to give themselves an out, though. Joe always knows Danny Dimes is Danny Bags now. Yes, he is, Nino. Need Wandell to step up now. Yeah, well, Dennis, Wandell needs to get healthy. Quite frankly, I've got my doubts about Wandell. Like the dude, high character guy. He's like 5'8", 5'7". He's going to be playing in the slot. That dude is going to be having a short career. I hope I'm wrong. He is talented, but Wandell is going to be getting blasted playing the slot, in my opinion. I didn't like that pick. I like the dude. I didn't like the pick. He was on a run before injury. And I talking about Wandell. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. And I realized Wandell, I'm rooting for the guy hard. That second round pick last year scared me a lot. He's small, and I realized the injury, torn ACL he had last year. It's got nothing to do with his size, nothing to do with it whatsoever. When he does come back from injury, I am concerned that given his size, he's going to get blasted in the NFL by safeties, linebackers, even cornerbacks. He's small, man. He's going to be taking big hits. I'm just worried he's not going to be able to take it. Sneaky draft pick in the third. A.T. Perry to the Giants. Nino, I've been thinking more and more about A.T. Perry. And yeah, third round is really, that's kind of where I have it pegged, Nino. That's kind of where I have it pegged. A.T. Perry is actually kind of on my radar now. I always kind of liked him, but I never really thought about him that much. But he's on my radar, Nino. He's on my radar. Dennis says, going to have to build through draft because once they re-sign Lawrence, they'll be cap crippled. I don't agree with that, Dennis. I don't agree with that. Osiris Torrance in the first, put him next to Neal to help carry the weight. I'm not taking another offensive lineman in the first round. This front office needs to figure out, because the previous Giants front offices weren't able to do it. This front office needs to figure out how to build an offensive line without building it completely through the first round or even the second round. Like most NFL teams, this front office needs to learn how to identify and develop talent on the offensive line from the mid rounds and the latter rounds, just like every other NFL team does. I'm not saying every player on the offensive line has to be from the third round and beyond, but at least some of them have to. Every other NFL team does it. This team is going to have to do that too. We have two first round tackles. I'm not spending a first round pick on a guard. I'm just not doing it. Not at this point. Not at this point. I'm not. CP3 in the second. Not bad. Not bad, Nino. Not bad. Joe, just make it good. That's right. Just make it good. Nino, Danny Dimes is now Danny Dollars. That's right. And that's it for the comments. He is Danny Dollars. But I got to stick with Danny Dimes. I love Danny Dimes. I love that nickname so much. Anyway, guys, I'm just rambling. I've kind of been rambling for an hour now, but just so excited by the Danny Dimes extension, the Saquon tag, and just a great day yesterday. Just needed to relive it all. So anyway, guys, I'm out of here. And again, I am Joe. This program is New York Giants Corner here at Toilets to Titles every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. I am your host, and I'm signing off. I'll catch you next week. Enjoy your weekend, everyone. Take care.